bailando en las calles.
You add the thumping and plucking with drums, you know, you go, dance to the music, dance to the music, you know, get that cussing thing, you know, like that. I'm gonna add some bottom so that the dancers just won't hide. My first song came on. See, my first tone is a little box you step on. It's a distortion box, you know? And you step on it and go, I don't have it here, but it's kind of like that, you know?
He'd actually start popping and playing accents while he was playing melodically the low end on the bass, and that's how he developed that.
That was the beginning of the slap bass.
That's how he developed that.
Yeah, that's right.
Bass had traditionally been the afterthought. I mean, it's like you had to have a bass player to give you the bottom, and he was always this anonymous guy who kind of like stood like a wooden whatever in the background, just playing the changes. And of course, with Sly and the Family Stone, Larry Graham, and a handful of other people in less important bands, the bass guitar had begun to move to the forefront.
Everybody kind of started trying to take the credit, but no, it was Larry Graham. It was definitely Larry Graham. He was doing with the bass what, at that particular time, what nobody else was even thinking about.
Baila con la música fue solo el primero de una serie de temas que llegaron a la lista de los 10 más populares durante los siguientes 3 años. A diferencia de James Brown, la música de Sly a menudo tenía más éxito entre el público blanco que en las carteleras de Rhythm and Blues.
Sly incorporated R&B, blues, jazz, funk with pop and rock. And when he put that all together, it was something that crossed all the lines.
Sly Stone is like the Bach of rhythm. I mean, the things that goes on in his head, what he hears in his head, and he was able to execute that on stage.
Multiracial band, multi-gender band, had women musicians. It was a very open, optimistic view of what America could be. And his music said that, and his band said that. And that's what Sly tapped into, and that's why he was so important to so many people.
He could express and get across to you that you were somebody, and you felt that, no matter what walk of life you were in, you heard that loud and clear, without knocking, you know, the opposite party, but just letting you know that you have control, and you don't have to let people keep you down.
And I could be wrong. My own beliefs are in my soul. The banker, the drummer, and then makes no difference what group I'm in.
Mississippi, surrounded by four walls that ain't so pretty. His parents give him love and affection to keep him strong, moving in the right direction, living just enough for the city. His father works some days
major riots in almost every major American city with a black population. You had the first major influx of heroin coming into the black community in a way it never had before. I mean, just mass marketing everywhere. Junkies sprang up on all the corners.
Everybody's misused him, ripped him off and abused him. Another junkie plan, pushing dope for the man. A terrible blow, but that's how it goes.
No todos compartían este nuevo realismo. Si bien él fue el iniciador de la tendencia, las letras de James Brown evitaban la crítica social y se limitaban a una mayor celebración del ritmo. Era más autocrático que nunca y en 1971 nuevamente fue abandonado por algunos de sus músicos.
After we had left James, you know, we really didn't know what the heck we were doing, what we were going to do, because like after 2 weeks, you know, we ran out of money and was like, okay, all right, Mr. Boots, since you're on it and everything, what we going to do now? You know, so we were looking pretty crazy. And then we start doing gigs and, you know, going to different towns, telling them, you know, we the house guests, formerly James Brown Band.
Durante sus giras con James Brown, Bootsy quedó fascinado por el deslumbrante glam británico. Al regresar a Estados Unidos, decidió plegarse a esta tendencia esperando conquistar el mercado norteamericano. Pero otra persona se le había adelantado.
Kept hearing this thing about, man, y'all should see Funkadelic, you know, because y'all look like Funkadelic. Y'all should play on the same stage with Funkadelic. Then they kept saying that to us. It's like, yeah, okay, where is Funkadelic? We want to get, you know, we want to get on the stage with them. But yeah, who is Funkadelic? So we kept hearing this, you know, everywhere we played. Y'all just missed Funkadelic. They was here last week.
Funkadelic era una creación del productor y músico George Clinton, bastante alejado de la propuesta de James Brown. Sus llamativos disfraces y su informalidad atraían a los negros más jóvenes. Finalmente, Bootsy y George se encontraron.
Sure enough, George was sitting over in the corner, had his white sheet on, had his feet crossed, bare feet. He's sitting in his, what do you call that position?
Lotus position.
With his legs crossed and, you know, that kind of thing. He's sitting there, had his head down. He's probably, he wasn't home up here. He was definitely not home. So, I think I probably wasn't home either, come to think of it. But, you know, it was good, though, because as soon as I seen him, it was like love at first bite, right? It was like, yeah, I know. I mean,
were home.
Yeah, we were definitely home. It was like, I know I can do what I want to do. And he'd seen it, too.
Bootsy was a big, silly dude that could play a gang of bass who had so much magnetism that, you know what I mean, the spotlight could be on everybody else on the stage and none on him, but people would still be looking over trying to see who that is. You know, and when he was there, we knew that right from the beginning. And he had that rhythm and that vibe of James Brown that we were able to take and do what we knew from Motown.
Fue en Detroit donde el ex peluquero George Clinton se inició en el ambiente musical al grabar para el sello Motown con su grupo The Parliaments en los años 60.
So we come to Detroit, you know, trying to be like the Temptations, and we were singing a doo-wop group, and we thought we was cool and everything. We came out here, we found out they had about 10 cool groups in a line waiting.
En busca de inspiración, Clinton recurrió a una fuente inesperada.
We learned that from being on the road, we was always with some pop, you know, psychedelic band or rock and roll band. We knew the main thing about that music was the amplifiers. And we went and bought all the Marshalls in the world. You know, some of the black bands with Marshall, we go to a show with Marshalls and they have Shure PAs, the little silver columns, and our amps was louder than the whole PA system. So we would pantomime, and we still wouldn't turn down. We played loud as hell. And then we realized that we didn't have no competition. We went out and got us some robes, and that was a good way to get rid of the suits because we couldn't keep them clean. Ties couldn't keep them clean. So we started being funky.
P-Funk, #1 was fun. I mean, when I say fun, I mean the cartoon names, very elaborate stage show. It was sci-fi. I mean, there were no real black cartoons. There were no real black sci-fi movies. And in a lot of ways, P-Funk represented all of that. And it definitely was an avant-garde move to be down with Funkadelic.
Y'all ready to give up the funk?
Bootsy agregó el ingrediente que faltaba en la mezcla de hedonismo multicultural de Clinton.
Peace. Okay. Don't play. Y'all sing it, baby. Sing it loud so we think you mean it. Sing!
He taught me that rhythm, you know, the one. He came with all the James Brown theories, and I crammed them, and I kept them too. On the one. Now let's haul off in one.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and you hit on the one. One. You know, one. You know. You know, and that's the funk. You know. You know, and there you go. You got your basic funk formula there. You know, you can do anything you want to do with it, you know?
Rick! Hey, Rockin' Rick! Rick! Hey, Rockin' Rick!
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. And then when everything's on the one, the line, everybody played the same. It's bigger when everybody played.
P-Funk would stay on the one, I mean, so hard and heavy and never move. They just drove that thing into your subconscious. And by the time you realized what was happening, you was hooked.
Bernie would take that and add all these different colors to it, you know? And I think between that and George would come to the table with these vocal ideas that he heard. And I think with all that mixture there, those were the three ingredients that was like...
the stew.
It was the what?
For the stew, for the funkin' stew.
The funkin' stew, yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Put a glide in your stride, a dip in your hip, and come on to the mothership. Doing the loose booty. Give me a little more foot up here.
We was too black for the white folks, and too white for black folks, which I mean, we were too loud when we played in the black clubs, and you know, hit on those costumes and things.
We had to go straight for the underground, straight from the street to the people. And the people was the ones that say, yay. These boys here, yay.
George had a way of using everybody's attitude and everybody's energy, which he led it. Like James gave the music permission to go different ways. George gave the language, the lyrics, everything permission to go wherever.
Put your hands together out there. We gonna say we can't get the mothership in here tonight. Come on.
Most white people, when you listen to their music, it's, you know, they would rather turn up the treble, whereas black people turn up the bass. And we are, for whatever reason, that's where we are, and that's where our music is rooted, in the rhythm section.
The rhythm, the beat, the bass, from R&B, from rock and roll, came from the drum, the first musical instrument that was communicating from one drummer to a people, carrying the message from his people, his community, to the next.
And funk is when that bass line is just pumping in conjunction with the drums and then whatever else you want to put on top of it. But if you got the heavy bass line and the drum pounding, then you have some funk.
A mediados de los 70, el funk se había convertido en el nuevo paradigma de la música negra. Surgieron muchas bandas con diferentes variantes de la fórmula, reversionando las antiguas coreografías de Motown, pero con vestimentas y peinados más estrafalarios. Detrás de su exuberante fachada, los grupos de funk comenzaban a tener dificultades.
The music industry is not separate and distinct from the things that are going on in the community. I mean, there was forced busing, there was affirmative action. All these things were making some resistance to black music and black people in general.
Para lograr aceptación en las estaciones blancas, muchas bandas desarrollaron un sonido más ligero y melódico. Aún así, se encontraron con mucha resistencia.
The formatting of radio would change, become much more conservative in terms of what they would play of different kinds of music. And so funk, to a great degree, was not really heard for the most part by the mass audiences.
Those lines were drawn. You know, black music is for black folks on black radio stations, and white music is for white folks on white radio stations. But now we found that the buying public could care less. They were just interested in music that made them move. But the problem was convincing the record company.
When I come home a little late at night.
CBS fue una de las compañías disqueras que vislumbraron la posibilidad de explotar el creciente mercado de la música bailable. Fue la primera gran compañía en dedicarse a la búsqueda de productores negros. En Filadelfia descubrieron un dúo que daría a esta ciudad su propio sonido distintivo y emblemático.
Writing for that time, for that generation, you know, great love songs, and we were just having fun. That's what we would do.
Just
having fun and overjoyed
that they liked them.
That every time we wrote a song, it was a hit. Yeah, that was unbelievable.
Kenny and Leon were magical in what they were able to do, the Philly sound, because they were able to keep the funk in their music, but yet make it nice and mellow and sweet because of, you know, Philadelphia horns, the strings that they put on top of it. But underneath all of that, there still was the driving bass line. There still was the drum.
The Gamble and Huff style, it like put a bow tie on the funk. You know, it made it elegant.
Gamble and Huff's music came with really strong sing-along melody and the lush treatment. I mean, the step beyond with the full orchestra really took it to a new dimension, took R&B to a new dimension.
Some people got to have it. Hey, hey, hey. Some people really need it. Listen to me, y'all. Do things.
When most record companies was recording with rhythm section, we had the orchestra.
We had an orchestra.
Which made us more powerful.
And it was a little classical, a little gospel, a little jazz, and a little bit blues. Yeah, and that's basically what it was.
Everybody's doing straight chords, you know, straight dominant chords, and we invented this kind of stuff, that kind of stuff, and this.
We sort of got into the upper partials of the chords. In other words, like he said, all the rock groups would play just C major. Well, we got into, we spread the chord out.
everybody was playing 2/4. I said, well, let me put some rhythm, a little bit more rhythm into the drums. So I would play like. It's more like a melody on a snare drum. So didn't sound nothing like Motown, Memphis, and nobody. I want y'all to listen to every word I say, every word I say. No stopping us now. No, no, no. Ain't no stopping us now. See, we got the groove.
We had a string of black and white artists, international from Italy, Germany, England, who came because they heard something that they liked and they wanted to try and capture. It was great for the studio. We were always busy and so forth, but the core was what Gamble and Huff created.
Gamble y Huff ayudaron a uno de los antiguos grupos de soul a transformarse tras abandonar Motown. Rebautizados como los Jackson, Michael y sus hermanos fueron a Filadelfia buscando un mejor control artístico de sus carreras y una nueva imagen.
Gamble and Huff did a collaboration album with the Jacksons, and the whole family moved to Philadelphia for like a 2-month period, and we cut the album. I think one of the interesting things that really became apparent even back then was that Michael had his own, he heard something in his head, and he was an active participant in the production. He wanted to do his own ad-libs, and he wanted to turn the mic on, you know, I just want to record this little part, and he heard little things he wanted to add. So typically it was Gamble and Huff's show, but he really credited Gamble and Huff teaching him how to write songs.
La música a disco nació en los clubes gays de Nueva York y al principio fue un fenómeno underground considerado por las grandes compañías disqueras como música minoritaria, pero paulatinamente comenzó a registrar grandes ventas de discos. Mientras los pequeños sellos independientes divulgaban el sonido disco, las grandes compañías estaban buscando el modo de atraer a los oyentes blancos de rock. Y lo consiguieron con creces. La banda sonora de Fiebre del Sábado por la Noche en 1977 introdujo la música disco al gran público. El argumento simplón y estereotipado de la película y el soul blanco de los Bee Gees garantizaron su éxito en todos los estratos.
At the height of the disco craze, you know, you could record the national anthem to the disco beat, a la Saturday Night Fever, and have a hit.
Cher had disco record. You had Dolly Parton with a disco record. 9 to 5, I think, was one of the records we had. And you had Ethel Merman with a disco record.
Incluso los más duros de la vieja guardia rockera saltaron al tren del disco.
Disco is funky, you know, when you take one record at a time. It's just that they narrowed it down to one beat to try to corner the market on a particular music. And when you do that with rhythm, you're talking about something that will get on your nerve. Try to make love with one stroke. Somebody tell you the facts in here.
Mientras todos querían entrar a la onda disco, P-Funk profundizaba aún más su estilo teatral inspirado en el glam.
We bought a spaceship. We bought clone costumes with wings on them that are leather, not plastic and not, you know, felt material, but we spent a lot of money, in other words. We had to look more glitter than any other band. If we was gonna be glitter, we had to do it better than anybody else had done it.
Everyone waited for the mothership to land, for Dr. Funkenstein to emerge and bring the funk. George gave you the black people in space. They had a whole elaborate science fiction view of the future, if you will, that was very contemporary, but also not like reality. It was reality, but not reality. Everything came out of the street environment, but it was heightened. It was taken to someplace else, someplace of the imagination.
I said, maybe these guys really are from outer space, you know. But then I looked at myself and said, well, I'm actually from Alabama, so I'm not from outer space, and I'm out here doing it with them, you know, so it was really a movement.
I got to get over the hump. 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 I got to get over the hump.
Ese funk de ciencia ficción necesitaba un nuevo sonido futurista.
We had gotten these synthesizers, and I would always hear Bernie playing, you know, low things on it, and it had such a percussive thing. And we had always heard, you know, groups like Emerson, Lake and Palmer and them play, but not use it as a bass, but would play those real low sounds on it. And I would hear Bernie hitting it, so I told him, could you actually do the bass line? And he started doing Larry Graham for me.
Bernie started doing this thing with it. I would do a and he started loving that. And then he started doing it like him. He been started doing it on the Moog, right? So everybody started grooving on that.
So Flashlight, as far as I know, is like the first of the songs with the synthesizer as the bass, you know, and not just a sound effect.
A fines de los 70, los elaborados escenarios de Clinton adquirieron proporciones gigantescas. Para sus óperas funk, contrataba a los mejores músicos de otras bandas e incluía cantantes y bailarines, llegando a reunir a más de 40 personas en escena.
P-Funk would bring an army. They had an army on stage. So we tried to compete in a sense, you know, and we tried to get into that space thing and everything. So we added like 3, 4 female singers, and we had more people other than our, you know, our regular core unit with 7 people, just to try to stay afloat. And Earth, Wind & Fire, they brought more members on stage with more horns and singers. So just to compete, our band had to become a bit larger, just to stay afloat of all that. But P-Funk, they just came with the bomb, basically.
We want the funk in here. Give up the funk. We need the funk. We gotta have the funk. Y'all say, we want the funk. Give up the funk. We need the funk. Y'all got to get ready. Gotta have the funk.
We think that we're funky. No, I mean, we had our share of funky stuff, but they were actually the funksters of all time.
Las bandas de funk crecieron tanto que cayeron bajo su propio peso. Irónicamente, fue el mismo instrumento impuesto por Clinton, el sintetizador, lo que contribuyó a reemplazarlas. A comienzos de los años 80, las ciudades se volvieron aún más tétricas y la nueva música negra regresó a la calle.
The kids in the street got tired of all these 50 musicians and strings and horns, and the cost of production was so great. The music was losing some of its soul, it was losing some of its funk.
Yeah! Yeah, boy! Bring that back one more time. Bring that beat back, man! Bring that beat back! Bring the beat back! Y'all wanna hear that beat, right? Bring that beat back! 1, 2, 3, 4.
Los raperos de la nueva generación no requerían de escenarios costosos ni complicados, pero gracias a la tecnología, la música de James Brown y George Clinton se mantenía viva. Sus efectistas bajos y baterías sobreviven en 1000 versiones remezcladas que eternizan el funk en la música.
Ain't it funky? Ain't it funky? Ain't it funky? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Doblaje por excelencia.